Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. My name is Kirk Henderson. You're joined, as always, by myself and Josh Bowe, another editor over at Mavs Moneyball. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. We're gonna get through this podcast somehow, some way. We're gonna fight through it. That's why we're professionals and we make the big bucks, right?
Yes. I can hear my knuckleheaded dog like digging in the couch, like disgruntledly, and like her noises as she's trying to savage whatever thing she thinks she's digging for are kind of how I feel about this basketball game, which the Dallas Mavericks lost 121-87. This was as clear of a forfeit as you can get without actually quitting. The Dallas Mavericks kept Luka Doncic at home with whatever made-up injury he doesn't have. Realistically, it's called I played 7,000 minutes in the last 3 games, which is fine. Like, I'm not mad that Luka sat. I'm just like, they didn't have a justifiable reason to sit him other than the fact that it's like, man, I'm tired.
Yeah. Other than the fact that if he played another 45-minute game, his legs might have actually fallen off.
Right. Kyrie Irving sat for the Jesus Christ, Kyrie, why did you say you were going to play through this if you can't play through it?
Yeah,
I'm not mad because you're hurt. I'm mad because I'm left with the expectation of being hurt.
Right.
It's just frustrating. Dante Exum was hurt. Well, again, with knee bursitis, which, as one of my friends on the internet today was like, what the hell is knee bursitis? I thought he had a foot problem. And I'm like, it's all that stuff is kind of linked together, kinetic chain and what you, and what have you. Derek Jones Jr. is missing a game due to his sprained wrist, which is fine because he tried to touch God and nearly broke his hand in that game a couple games back. And then Derek Jones Jr. broke his nose last game.
Did they officially confirm it was broken?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
I probably should have looked that up before we started.
And so the funny thing about those 5 players, as you're hearing me list them off, is that's quite literally kids' stated preferred starting lineup. So when those 5 guys are out, you're going to get a whole heavy dose of somebody else. And for 2.5 quarters, the Dallas Mavericks, who did play basketball, mostly delivered. I had a pretty good time in this dog water basketball game.
Yeah, it wasn't. You look at the final score and you think this must have been, just miserable watch. But I mean, it really wasn't that way until halfway through the third quarter. So, you got to watch at least one half of competitive basketball. And just before we keep going, you're right. Lively does have broken nose confirmed. Kid said before the game he's getting fitted for a mask. But
shout out to making those free throws in hindsight.
Ew, yeah, that's crazy. So good for him. So yeah, just wanted to clarify because I'm sure. Yeah,
it's good. Yeah,
but first half was I don't know how much of it was the Wolves playing with their food, but regardless, the Mavericks had a disposition about themselves that they weren't gonna get walked over, at least to start the game.
Nice to see.
I thought their defensive energy was pretty good. I thought they were going after loose balls pretty aggressively. I thought they went after the offensive glass pretty well for a team that's severely undersized. They were keeping up in the rebounding stat for most of the first half. When you consider the Mavericks were playing, no credible big men tonight, really. I thought that was pretty impressive for them to do that. Josh Green obviously looked like Josh Green does when he's not playing without one of either Luka or Kyrie or both, which might be a little frustrating, but what are you going to do? We can maybe talk about that more later. But yeah, they played hard. I mean, it was clear there was a talent disadvantage, and it was clear that the Wolves probably didn't come into this game ready to give their A+ effort. But credit to the Mavericks, they forced the Wolves to play better. They forced the Wolves to make this a blowout, and forced them to kind of turn their game around, which, I know that might seem like the bare minimum quality for some people that are paid thousands, if not, millions of dollars per year to play basketball. But, it's a long season, and this could have been a really easy game for everyone to just kind of punt it, and they didn't until, they ran out of rope in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so I'm doing the math on Grant Williams shooting for January. So I need you to filibuster for me for a minute.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the good or talk about the bad first, but I guess when you lose by 34 points, there isn't.
Well, we can talk about the good. Let's talk about the good while I do this.
Okay. Well, the two. I mean, I guess you can maybe say three. To me, there were two obvious bright spots and maybe a partial third. Obviously, Josh Green looked awesome. 18 points on 8 of 13 shooting, 2 of 3 from 3. He continues to play well when he gets a lot of touches, which on a team with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic is tough. Had a pretty good spirited back and forth with some Mavs fans when I pointed out how much better Green looked tonight. And it's not just that Green looks better. Like, it's not just he's doing stuff better that he does when he's playing with Luka. Like, he does more things. Like, he looks like a completely different player. And when I mentioned that, I got a lot of responses that was like, well, yeah, they're not playing Luka ball, and they're not, having one player dominate the ball. And when guys touch the ball, they play better. And like, I get it. I'm not trying to deny that the Mavericks need a little bit more diversity in their touches, but they play the way they are mostly because the roster sort of forces them into that a little bit. Not to say that Luka doesn't like to play this way. I think that's another conversation for sure.
Yep.
But the thing with Green is that, like, he goes from looking like almost like an all-star when he's playing without one of Luka or Kyrie or both, to when they're both on the floor, like, he goes games where he will score like 6 points across 3 games. And I feel like if I can concede that the Mavericks can't win a title with a roster and that forces, or Luka forcing a 38% usage and having to dominate the ball as much as he does, I think everyone else can concede that Green probably has to learn how to do a little bit more when he's not getting a lot of touches, because that's the life of an NBA role player, regardless of what team you play on. If you're going to be on a winning team, like, I don't know how many more touches Josh Green would be getting if he was playing on the Boston Celtics or on the Milwaukee Bucks or on the LA Clippers. Like, I just don't see him being in a situation where he's getting consistent touches like he's getting tonight on another winning team. Like, that only happens if he's on a team where he's like a top dog. Like, there has to be that balance. Like, he has to figure out a way to impact winning when he's not running pick and rolls, when he's not bringing the ball up the floor a couple possessions, when he's not initiating dribble handoffs and stuff like that. So, well, I agree that the Mavericks need to balance maybe a little bit more, and it would be cool if they maybe ran more stuff for him and maybe involved him a little bit more. He also has to figure out a way to produce in these games with Luka and Kyrie, because that's the reality of the situation. So I don't know. That's kind of a little bit of good or bad, but that's just the thing that stood out to me the most. Like, he looks like the confidence is different. He just looks like a different player.
Right. So when I kind of ruthlessly dunk all over Josh Green, it's less Josh Green and more the concept that we, as a team that has a superstar that Jason Kidd says could be amongst the best players in any dimension, I just don't give a shit about any role player ever. I'm sorry, that's just the way this goes. If you want to be a super fan for a particular player, go right ahead. I find that weird. Just letting you know. And so it's like, when I talk about Josh Green, I'm occasionally very harsh, and I don't really make any apologies for that, because I want the Mavericks to win a championship. I don't want Josh Green to look good. And that goes for every single player across the board. The fact is, Luka Doncic carries this team, and so I want everybody else to fit better with him. The end. What Well, and that said, I do like it when Josh plays well because he's such an interesting, weird player. He does things that they don't have, and like you need that special sauce. Like Kyrie picks and chooses when he's going to use his talent, in my opinion, which is fine. When Josh Green plays, it's kind of 1,000 miles an hour at all times, and sometimes it really works. And I like that. I'm happy with it. So
yeah, they're just like we got to find a way where we can, like I said, just the balance. Like you can't go from, he played that Orlando game. He had 2 points in 33 minutes, and now he plays without these guys, and it's like he looks like young Paul George almost.
Well, he got the ball a
balance.
ton last night against the Magic, and looked like a lost boy until he finally scored a layup at the end.
Yeah.
So, like Josh Green's skill set, he is not a pull-up jump shooter, which is fine. He is a darn good three-point shooter off the catch when they've sprained his elbow. I say that jokingly, but it's kind of wild. His shooting splits in between his sprained elbows. I do wish the Mavericks would use Josh's speed more, which means Luka passing ahead more. But I think back to that time when I got really pissy, not at his talk, but at the concept of like the Mavericks are using stampede action to get Josh Green to go to the rim. And I'm like, God damn it, guys, he's running at the basket with the ball. Stop calling it stampede action. It's just a drive. But everybody likes yelling at me about that. So I'm probably wrong in that regard. You play the Wolves, you punch them in the mouth, and what Josh did for most of this game was darn nice. I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, for sure.
To pivot to the bad because I'm a shit.
They lost by 34. It's okay to talk about that.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't listen to the Mavs broadcast very often. I'm just going to be candid. I don't listen to the broadcast very often because I don't learn things about the other team from the Mavs broadcast. And what I often hear is like wild cheerleading, which is fine. That's not an insult. But like when I hear from Mark Followill tonight, because Grant Williams played another piss poor game, 1 of 7 from the floor, when he goes, oh man, Grant Williams really struggling from the floor tonight. I just did the math here. In the month of January, I'm as far as I can do my quick math, I could be missing something. ESPN is showing me 42.5% for January, but I just did it in a spreadsheet and it says
that month thing doesn't include tonight's game. That usually
okay. Well, it does have the stats, but I don't think the percentages are calculating right. He's 32 of 80 for the month, which is 40%. When you back out his 9 of 16 game, he is 23 of 64 at 36% from the floor. That sucks. Yeah. There's simply no other way around it.
And he was under 40% in December.
Yeah, he was. This is who we have a long enough track record that with the Mavericks, this is who he is. That doesn't mean to say that is who he is for his career. I'm sorry. He's not good. And he doesn't bring anything to the Mavericks this year. We have too many games of sample right now to sort of go back on that and have any real debate. And I don't want him to be bad. I thought he was a great signing. I thought he was a fair signing. 4 at 54. It was basically a steal.
Yeah, 4 for 54.
Yeah. It was a steal in terms of contract size. But now I don't want to necessarily say it's an overpay, but it's about standard for what you're going to get for a rotation wing. The problem is he doesn't bring you things that a rotation wing does. He doesn't rebound. He cannot defend drives. He can actually defend the post pretty well. He doesn't rebound and he can't shoot the three. So what would you say you do here?
Other than that, Mr. Lincoln, how was the play?
Yeah. And 25 minutes, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 points.
Yeah. And I remember that Kings game, the main prevailing thought from that loss was, if nothing else, maybe this is the game that Grant Williams gets going. And in the 2 games he's played combined, he's scored 5 points and made 2 shots in 2 games since then. So I remember when we talked after that Kings game that we were trying to find some positives, and it was like, okay, maybe that. And I remember saying, like, he he is a streaky guy, and in the last month, he has these games where he looks like he's fixed it, and then he'll play.
Well, he's getting
3 or 4 bad
unbelievable.
games in a row.
He's getting unbelievable respect from the 3-point arc, where guys are challenging his shot. He's using his pump fake, and he's getting to the rim, and it just doesn't matter. That is something I have a hard time criticizing, because getting and scoring at the rim in the NBA is hard. Like, Luka does it so easily and Kyrie does it so artfully that we sort of take it for granted, but it's hard. And so I have a real hard time really wanting to beat him up for that, but you got to bring something. And he's just not.
Yeah, the fact that he's averaging a full rebound per game less than last season, considering he's playing more than he did last season, like, that's rough.
Yeah.
It's just not good. I'm getting Josh Richardson, DeLon Wright vibes here, where it's just like, not to say that he's a doomed player, but maybe it's just one of those things where it's just not going to work here, because Richardson played much better when he left Dallas. DeLon Wright played much better when he left Dallas. Not enough that you're like regretting it, but just, they looked like better players when they left. I don't know. And this isn't a lot of people probably want to make it like a Luka thing. This is obviously not a Luka thing. Like, this has gone beyond. Like, he was a really good spot up shooter his entire career. Like, this 3-point slump he's in, he's just never happened before. Like, he's been a streaky guy, but he usually cancels it out.
Well, you know what it
he's
is.
Not
will you allow me to put on my unbelievable hater hat?
Yeah, do whatever you want.
He has been. There's a trainer. Pretty sure he was like high school teammates with Kevin Durant or something. Goes by the name of Lethal Shooter. Are you familiar with him?
That sounds familiar, but I don't know.
He is the guy who, in my opinion, broke Anthony Davis's shot following the 2020 title run, where Davis shot like 40% from 3, then came back the next year and couldn't hit a mid-range shot. Grant has worked with him for several years and just recently posted photos with him. And I'm being a prick here, but I also kind of believe this. Like, when you work with certain kinds of shot doctors, you can overdo it. And there's a real, you used to be a big baseball fan. There's a real yips thing going on with Grant and his shooting.
Like, he's getting Markelle Fultz here, because I remember Fultz also worked with.
I don't want to say like that bad. I just think there's like, Grant is clearly an intelligent player, and when you give smart people too many things to think about, I think it can have bad results in a game that's based off of reaction.
Yeah, and I think what's it's kind of similar to the Green thing, where when we are the thing I'm most disappointed with Josh Green's fourth year season, even though he's been picking it up lately, is his defensive regression. Like, I almost don't care if he doesn't score a lot of points, because this Mavs team doesn't need him to score a lot of points. It's the game-to-game effort with his defense that looks like it just hasn't improved. With Grant, it's kind of similar. Like, yeah, he needs to hit spot-up threes, but he was a pretty versatile defender in Boston. I know he was playing
with some other unbelievable defenders,
and he was playing with coaches that had good scheme, like Missoula and Udoka are well regarded. At least Udoka was definitely a well regarded defensive coach. Like, look what he's doing with the Houston Rockets. I know they're not great right now, but like, their defensive turnaround from last year to this year is pretty unreal. So I know there was a lot around him to allow him to thrive, and there's significantly less around him here in Dallas in terms of like defensive help. But even saying that, like, just the amount of stuff that has nothing to do with the environment, like the blow bys and that kind of stuff, that's the part that's that's the most disappointing part of it to me. Like, there was a part of my brain, like when I wrote about this over the summer, I tried to pump the brakes on how good of an acquisition he could be. Not because I didn't think it was a good acquisition, but just like, let's slow down and thinking this is like the solution to the Mavericks kind of forward problem that they've had for a while.
Right.
But I still thought he would bring a defensive edge and energy and maybe like intensity that the team has kind of lacked for a little bit. And that part has been non-existent. That, like, it feels like there's little to none impact defensively with him on the floor compared to what the Mavericks were doing a year ago. And I think that's the most disappointing thing for me.
Kind of going through the rest of the guys. Tim Hardaway. Oh no. Let's just leave it at that. Negative 32 in 32 minutes. Remarkably impressive negative efficiency, Timmy. Really excited for you there. Jaden Hardy, I saw one really cool layup, but otherwise he was not good. 5 turnovers in 31 minutes. I know he's asked to play point guard, and he's not really a point guard, but he was
he's an off guard.
Yeah, so it's tough. The Wolves are a pain of a team to play against, so I don't want to be too hard on him. Holmes played a little bit. He had 10 boards.
Yeah, what do you mean? Do you see the Holmes performance as shaking anything up in terms of like backup big minutes at all?
See, I don't know, because I like Holmes, and I would rather see Holmes do things I haven't seen than watch Maxey flail and watch Dwight Powell flail and watch Maxey, play good defense but just do nothing on offense. So it's your death by 1,000 cuts with these bigs is sort of where I am.
Yeah, at this point they've done enough with the other guys that it's like, let's just see what like 5 games looks like if Holmes is the backup 5. Or I guess I don't know how quickly Lively's going to come back with a broken nose, so that he might have to play regardless of if the coaching staff wants him to or not.
Yeah, and then you go through the rest of the guys. Like Omax had 3 boards in his first 5 minutes, and then 1 board the remaining 15 minutes that he played. Mm-hmm. He at least got to the line some. He's big. He's kind of like reckless in a really fun way. And I need the Mavericks to give him some more minutes, but I don't think Kid's gonna.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really jumped out to you tonight that you would hope that they would give him more opportunities. But I think it says he led the team with 7 free throw attempts.
Which is that's something.
Yeah, and I think there's something to his off the bounce. Like he's got a little something there. I don't know how.
Well, he plays with kind of like a reckless force that you don't really see from a lot of other Mavericks.
Yes, I think so too. And
he's so much bigger.
And he has an athleticism that it's like him and Jones are kind of, and even like it's even different than Green because he's so much bigger than Green. Like no one the Mavericks have that's like, I mean, what is Prosper? He's 6'7". Like he's the only guy on the roster 6'7" or taller, maybe besides Lively, that kind of has this bounce and I don't know, nose for the basket is maybe a good way to say it. But yeah, I mean that might be something because this Mavericks team's pretty anemic at drawing free throws when it's not Luka or Kyrie. So for him to get 7 in a game, I don't know how much it means in a 34-point loss, but that's like the thing that stood out to me tonight with him.
Oh, then you look at the rest of the guys. Like Seth Curry just feels unbelievably washed, which makes me sad because I like Seth Curry.
Do we need to have another Maxey conversation? Because
what's the conversation to have? He's not good. That is the conversation.
Are we calling it? Like, do we think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I mean, if you slam your head against the wall enough, you're going to break through eventually. Just the question is, how much fucking brain damage do you have?
I think what was really scary tonight is, I mean, he only played 18 minutes, but with no Luka, I mean, I'm not expecting him to be a guy that's going to put up a ton of shots, regardless of who's on the floor. But like the fact that he still is just this trigger shy.
I mean, there might as well be a thought bubble above his head when he gets the ball, and the thought bubble would be fuck, because he doesn't want it. He doesn't have the ball,
and he had 2 turnovers. Like for a guy that doesn't touch the ball a lot to have 2 turnovers, like that's kind of hard.
The travel in his defense, I thought that travel call was bogus.
Oh, okay, that was one of them. But he did have a really bad one when he was going into the rim. Yeah, it's just I keep waiting for him to just kind of have like a game that looks good. Like has he had a good game since he's come back? I mean,
look at his game log.
It's pretty bleak, man. He's averaging 4 points a game in the month of January. Like he's had some good block games, but
yes, the help side stuff I've liked.
Yeah,
but he hasn't had a block in 3. He hasn't had a block in 4 games now.
He had one tonight, but yeah.
Oh, okay, he did have one tonight. So
1 in 5.
one in the last 4. Okay, because he did have he had two against Boston, 2 against Lakers, and 2 against the Pelicans.
Yeah. It's just. So. Do you? I don't know how much longer we're going to talk because we kind of talked, but like, I don't know if you saw, I mean, it's my Twitter feed, so you shouldn't have seen any of it. But how much do you buy into the fact that the team, there seems to be an opinion that people like the way the team plays when the stars are out, even if the result is that they lose in
Oh,
terms
because
of
they haven't
style.
experienced true pain. I'm sorry. Like the internet children who get really upset at the fact that Luka and Kyrie dominate the ball have no idea what they're talking about. And I was talking to a friend of mine today who was like, you really got to be careful about ascribing to what the loudest portions of your fan base say to the entire fan base. And the Mavericks are a weird conglomeration of fans. And like, look, guys, I don't mean to be insulting. I'm just going to state some facts here. There are 3 groups of Mavericks fans, maybe 4 or 5. There's Luka Doncic only fans that tend to be Slovenian, or people from Europe that only follow the Mavericks because Luka's on the team. There are Kyrie Irving fans that only follow the Mavericks because Kyrie is on the team. Then there are Mavericks fans, and you can really cast those into kind of 2 different age sets where you have people who were around for the struggle bus years. When I say struggle bus, I mean the fact that the Mavericks won 50 games for like 14 straight years, but couldn't only punch through one time. So we like witnessed a lot of greatness. And then you have the kind of younger folks that are on the internet that were kind of post 2011 fans that grew up spending a lot of time in social media, that have the patience of social media fans. I don't begrudge any of those groups, but the fact is, like, you want to suffer as a Mavs fan? We've not suffered, realistically. There have been like 2 bad years. And then we went from Luka we went from Dirk to Luka.
Yeah,
There's just there's nothing. We don't know struggle. So people that enjoy seeing I'm sorry, I get really pissed at this. People that are like, Luka's never going to change. Luka's never going to change. We need to play a completely different way of basketball. Do you want to win 20? The Washington Wizards tonight secured their 45th straight season where they have no chance of winning 50 games. 45 straight years of ineptitude to mediocrity. That's what most fan bases have. Everybody that complains about the way that the Mavericks play don't know what struggle is. I'm sorry. If you don't like the way that Luka plays, find another team. Because I promise you, if Luka demands to be traded and they get a bunch of parts, or they get back like Michael, who's if they were to make like a trade with the Nuggets and end up with some of their guys, you're not going to like the result. The Mavericks will win 32 games for 5 years in a row because, frankly, you have to get lucky to find the superstar. Everything else after that doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think people hear that and they're like, oh, so do you think like it's okay for Luka to have like a 40 usage rate? And it's like, no, but like,
no, of course not.
We feel like the way that changes is that they have to get a roster that can allow that. And people say, well, look at what Josh Green did tonight. And I'm like, okay, they lost by 34 points. Like, I don't
friend
know.
of the podcast, Isaac Harris of the Mavs, formerly of Locked On Mavs, poked at me again tonight where he's, he basically made the comment that I bring up 2019 so often. The reason I bring up 2019 so often is because the Mavericks, when you don't have, the Mavericks have fucked up so much. And there's just not enough credence or discussion about that because it's not fun to constantly bitch about a team's mistake. But they have. They've made lots and lots of mistakes. They've blown the Luka opportunity so far. Luka got them to the Western Conference Finals. It's true. Yeah, I know Jalen Brunson was there, but again, they let Jalen Brunson go. The Mavericks have blown opportunities. And it's just not that hard to say that out loud. But for some people, it feels really weird because folks seem to act like, oh, you can reset and try again every year. No, your mistakes live with you when it comes to team building.
On top of each other.
And that's just hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. I don't necessarily disagree. I just think it's interesting. I just see that narrative pop up every time they play a game without Luka, and it's like, okay, but what's their record without Luka?
Yeah, is it really fun to lose by 30 points and watch something different?
Like, do you want to watch what you think is aesthetically more pleasing and more productive basketball in your mind and win 25 games? Or
I mean, it stopped being
want-
aesthetically pleasing tonight when the
Yeah.
when the Wolves were like, "Oh yeah, we're really good and these guys suck."
Who are the Wolves, right? So, yeah, it's just it's interesting because I think it's one of those things where being online, you lose like it's one of those conversations where if you're having that conversation with someone like face to face, it's different. And there's something about the layer of being online that I think
that's
distorts it in a way that makes it just totally unproductive. Because, like I said, I'll say right now, the Mavericks aren't going to win a title if Luka has to have a 38 usage rate for a full season. Like, no one will really disagree with you on that.
History has proven that because no one's done it.
Right. So obviously that has to change. It's just the way that it feels like, well, the answer is here and now they need to change. It's like there's a little bit more to it than what the roster currently has.
Sure.
But we'll see. When Exum and Jones get healthy and Kyrie get healthy. But I'm starting to worry that this is just like, are they going to get healthy? Like, they're running out of runway to get healthy. So
I mean, it's so frustrating because I do think I think I said this in the last podcast. I still don't think I would consider Kyrie Irving an injury-prone player because all of his injuries are weird. But then you still have to acknowledge the fact that all of his injuries are weird. All of them.
Yeah. And he keeps, like, does it really matter? Okay, he's not injury-prone, but if he keeps consistently missing games, like, that's not a victory. Like, he has to get on.
Oh, we're approaching him. He's missed over 40% of the games to date.
That's a lot of games.
Alan says kid needs to suit up. Love that comment. All right, kind of an inadvertently grumpy podcast.
They lost by 34. It's okay.
Yeah, we'll see kind of what happens on any sort of deal making at the deadline. We're not really doing anything in Mavs Moneyball because I don't see what's out there. I also don't think the Mavericks have anything to trade. I mean, I could be wrong. So
I don't know. Josh Green looked pretty good. The team can be like, hey man, he'd be on your team. He'll look like this all the time. It's just Luka holding him back.
Yeah.
Use this game in trade talks, I guess. I don't know.
You're right.
Here's my optimistic trade take.
All right. I was going to do a second live show, but there wasn't really the juice for it last game, and that was a win. And I just don't really feel like
I didn't get to hear it. Were fans not into that?
No, my man Brian was the only one that joined. We normally get between like 5 and 10 people who want to hang out. I need to advertise these better. So we got 2 games off until, is it the Bucks game?
Yes, Bucks game.
So that Bucks game is going to be very interesting. Then they play the 76ers, and I am guessing Joel Embiid doesn't play, which turns that into a much more interesting proposition for these Mavericks. Right. Because, an MVP candidate not playing, he hurt his knee last night against the Warriors. That goes from being a like heavy tilt towards the Sixers to being more of a toss up. So that's interesting. It's you just got to win games like this now and again that you're not supposed to win. So, maybe they can sneak one past the Bucks. I mean, Maxi Kleber, for as much as we got done just harassing him right now, Kleber and Grant Williams tend to guard, Giannis reasonably well for a guy that can score 30 points, grab 10 rebounds, and dish 7 assists. So
they seem to play the Bucks pretty well.
They're fun.
They played them well earlier this season too, so we'll see.
And who
they got to get healthy.
Who does not like Giannis?
Who does not like Giannis?
Kyrie Irving.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Giannis stepped on his foot. Giannis stepped on his foot during that Bucks run. Obviously not intentional. I don't even think Kyrie, and I have no idea about this, but I seriously doubt Kyrie thinks it's intentional. But that Nets team was all gas and no brakes at that point. Like, they were good.
They were winning the title that year if those injuries didn't screw up.
Yeah. And so that's sort of where I landed with that. Yeah. Okay, Josh and I'll be back. Check out Mavs Moneyball. We have some stuff coming up. I don't know. We're kind of in the doldrums. Folks trying to get to the All-Star break, and then we'll see where things are. I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. It's 10:15. Should I just go to bed?
Go to bed. That's what I'm going to do.
All right. Thanks so much for hanging out, team.
Thanks,
Everybody
everyone.
have a great rest of your week. Talk to you guys on Saturday. Go Mavs.